Welcome to Manga Recaps, your source for exciting manga summaries, one story at a time. Our story began when we see a group from a certain sect attacking another group, and it is clear that they are used to them, and we see a person from the sect that is being attacked, and he says, "How long will these people keep coming like this? Their numbers are like ants, they will never end." And we see in front of him a very large group from the second sect who are standing arrogantly and powerfully, and have killed a number of people in the pitch-black night, and they advance quickly towards the person who was speaking, and they want to take him down, and he carries all the weapons until they reach him, and they tell him that he will be at the funeral home now. But this person notices the blow coming towards him and starts to dodge it with ease, and also kills the 3 people who attacked him from the second sect, and he stands like this, destroyed, and his body is full of wounds, and he says it is impossible that his blow will end. They don't want to end. Agad, you promised us that if we had an agreement, but you stabbed me in the back. But no matter how hard you try, I must protect my master. There is no way. He says this to the sect soldiers who are with him. Hold on, be patient. Kill them with whatever strength you have. Help will come to us on the way. But before he can finish speaking, someone speaks and says to him, "Do you mean these times? The help that is coming to you." We see heads developing in the air. It is a very ugly sight. Its reinforcements are completely tied down. This is done by one person in Bite Tatum. He says, How did this happen?" But when he looks, he finds that the person in front of him is the leader of the Murim Alliance. The first sword that pierced the sky, Damn Chun Hak. He says, "What is this first sword? This is your true strength. The ice sect's strength is good. By the way, it was able to withstand even 2 small ones in the fight in front of us. It gets hot and is treated, but they cut this person off." And he says to him, "I was surprised that you were bold enough to press a button. But by the way, if my master himself was standing in front of you now, you would have been in trouble." The men of the first sword sect are with him here, and they say, How dare you talk like that to our master? Cut out his tongue. We will never deceive you. You will die at our hands now." But suddenly, a voice from far away says, Wait a moment, please." And this is Miss Hua, who says to the person who was protecting her, "It's no problem. Don't worry about me. Let me talk to them." And the same thing, the first summer tells his soldiers to retreat. Indeed, the first summer stands in front of Now Hua, who says to him, "Mr. Ming." So he cuts her off and says to her, "You weren't just deceived by those idiots, but you also ran away from home. No one has dishonored me like you before. But with this, everyone makes mistakes, and I will be able to forgive you." One day, he extended his hand to her and said to her, "As your father, I will give you one last chance to come back. You are smart and know what choice you must make now." She said to him, "Okay, if I come back, will you let him live? So this is hers, and your house will be destroyed." She said to him, "Okay, I understand. I am sorry, father." Here, her father was shocked by her answer and said to her, "Okay, there is no other choice." He took out his sword, and it looked like he intended to do something bad. The boy screamed, "Damn him, don't do this. I will stand up." But he raised his sword in the air and killed her completely, amidst the screams of the young man who was in front of her. He said, "I no longer have a daughter. She was affected by these barbaric organists. Our only mission now is to clean this place." He ordered his soldiers to leave. They clean the place and finish off those who are still alive and house the soldiers to actually do that and take on everyone who is still standing in front of them, and this person continues to fight right and left and protects the men with him to complete and stay until the last man among them. And we see Miss Hua lying on the ground in her blood, and she says, "Brother, I promised him I would come back, but I am sorry I could not fulfill that promise." And it is clear from this that she promised someone that she would come back alive, and she says, "Next time I will make sure that I..." And the events transfer us to a castle, and in it, there is a person like this sitting on his throne saying, "What did you say?" And this is the Lord of the North Sea Palace Seal Madoko, and what he says is his follower members of the Ice Sect, including Mr. Baimo, who was going as a messenger there for negotiations with the Combat Alliance. Unfortunately, He faced the Magam Alliance in a battle and found him dead, but before he could complete Seal Mudak, the master of the Northern Sea Palace, becomes very angry because he knows that Lady Hua has also emptied his life. His followers are standing still, unable to bear the aura of their master. One day from his throne he says, "What happened is unforgivable. I will never be able to forgive them. Every single one of them, young and old, has been wiped out from the face of the earth." He orders his followers to prepare and tells them, "We are going to the Central Plains." They all actually move to take revenge for their master. Indeed, the events move us to the Central Plains after Seal Mudak and his followers arrive to take revenge for Lady Hua. We see Lady Hua's father completely destroyed. The first sword has no intact part in his body. He says with despair, "Is she annihilated?" All his followers are lying on the ground, drowning in their blood. He says, "My inner energy is completely drained. Is this the end? Kill me now." And the one standing in front of him is the master of the Northern Sea Palace, Seal Madoko, who says to him, "Why should I kill you?" So, he is surprised here. The first sword is Dam Chun, and Seal is still talking to him, saying, Why did you kill her? Why the hell?" So, Dam Chun responds to him and says to him, "What are you talking about? What do you want people to say when the leader's daughter makes love to a barmar like you? It wouldn't be wrong for me to leave her to live." So, Seol is very surprised and summons the ice energy in his hand. So Dam Chun is the first, laughing hysterically and saying to him, "Yes, you may have taken over Jingon, but you did not get what you wanted the most." What he means is his daughter, and Seol's blow penetrates his heart, completely exploding. Asna, who is rubbing his life, says, "After all this, will this be the end?" And he remembers his daughter when he used to play with her when she was little and when she started to grow up before his eyes. And he says, "Oh, why did you betray your father? Why did you deal with that barbarian? Why didn't you listen to my advice? Why did you make me commit a crime like this? I am literally very angry now and filled with hatred inside. Oh pity on you, oh pity on you." And he passes away. On that night, with the death of the leader of the Merry Alliance, Dam Chun, the great blood battle that lasted for 6 years ended and went in favor of the Lord of the Northern Sea, Sol Madoku. This is the moment when he became the unwavering ruler of the Central Plains. Despite this, Sol Madoku showed no emotion and was content to just look at the beauty of the moon. After some time passed in Lord Seol's palace, we see his back like this, which is placed on a certain table, and he says, "Seol, this is all that is left of you, all that is left of you is this flower." Yes, and one day he remembers this in the past when he was sitting doing certain weighty spells and I entered upon him. He said to him, Look, finally the flower of love has blossomed." He said to her, "The flower of love is the flower that blossoms only when two people who love each other truly love each other." She said to him, "Yes, that's true." She was very happy and cried because she never doubted his feelings, even though she was very upset because his love did not blossom at first. But now it has blossomed, and in a very beautiful way. She said to him, "I am happy because it wasn't a one-sided love, but you also turned out to truly love me." He said to her, "Seriously, of course. I mean, who else but you, my love? There is no one but you, my love." He hugged her and was very happy because he saw her happy. He was grateful to this flower that made her happy to the extent that he saw her in front of him. But back to the present. Now the blossoming flower has become desperate and lifeless. The one who says, "I must make an entire garden full of the flower of love. This is so that, no matter how hard I try, I won't be able to forget you." But just for a moment, the flower in front of him begins to shine again, and the sources of hope begin to appear in it. Love has blossomed once again. How is this possible? He summons Muyang and says to him, "Muyang, come quickly." He says, "Yes, my master." So Seol says, Find someone who can explain to me what happened before my eyes. Now, look for anyone, even if you have to search the entire Central Plains. He says, as you wish, my master. Indeed, after a few days, the Mana Pack, who are said to know everything in the world, gathered in the Ice Palace in the Northern Sea. None of them know why the Northern Sea Palace summoned a group like them, but they hear a strange voice telling them to come forward. Muyang asks where this voice is coming from, but a gate opens in front of them, so he steps towards it and says, we must come forward in order to find out. When they look, they find a garden filled with the manifestation of love, and they are more beautiful than those in front of them. And one of them says, this is the first time in my entire life I have seen a garden filled with the manifestation of love. This is a very rare phenomenon. You may not have seen it in your life even once. The letters of love are engraved on its stem as if it were embroidered. There is no doubt that it is the flower of love. How is this possible? In all the rare flowers here, he says to them, so what happened behind them? Did you like the manifestation? So he looks at him and says, yes, we liked it. But he is shocked when they ask him, who are you? So he says, I am Sol Madoku, the owner of this garden. So he says, how is Sol Madoku himself the absolute ruler of the Central Plains here? So he says to them, as you know, this garden is filled with the manifestation of love. I and the one I loved made it bloom with our love. But when it died, the flowers died too. But despite this, for some reason, these manifestations returned to life a few days ago. Counted in Bite Tatum, and they say to him, how did she come back to life again? Is this true? Is it normal for Al-Habani to appear to life? He says to them, yes, I saw her with my own eyes. So, in the hands of all the interpreters there, they say, a strange phenomenon, by the way, a really difficult puzzle, but with that, there is only one possibility. In Beirut, he will say to the person who said this and say to him, what is the possibility? Tell me. So, he replies and says to him, that the young lady is born again in the body of someone else. In other words, reincarnation. The form of the lady is your beloved, who was reincarnated somewhere in this world. So, in the hands of Sol, he says to him, is this really true? So, in the hands of Sol, he says to him, if it is not like this, then there is no other explanation, because the back of love opens again. So, Sol remains like this and says, reincarnation, or finally, there is hope. I succeeded in entering the Central Plains and uniting the entire region, achieving the dear mother of the Northern Sea. Now I have nothing to do, and now a sect the North Sea is on its way to blossom. There is nothing in front of me except my longing for you, my love. When I lost you, I no longer had anything left to continue this life. He asks the interpreter in front of him, saying, how can I find her? So he turns to him and says, it is said that the back of love shines dimly when the lovers are in the same place. When you find the one you love, you will add this flower. So he remains like this, Sayol. And he says, now, after I remembered, the flower that air brought was shining when we were in the same place. When I think about the matter a lot, there is a secret behind it. So one of the interpreters says, in order for you to carry this flower with you and keep it alive, it will be very difficult. Therefore, I suggest that you turn it into a jewel and carry it with you. So, he says, Sayol, is this possible? So he turns to him and says, yes. So he says, Sayol, okay, I am everything to you. We will begin. We will set off in the course of 10 days, so make the preparations by that time. Then the interpreter says to him, okay, understand. He tells them Seol before he leaves, if things go as planned like this, all the men in the sect will be given 100 niang of gold. And this is a very large amount that puts them all in a state of shock. And they say 100 gold, are you serious, are you serious? And he leaves and says to them, I will leave now. So he says to him, okay, Lord of the Palace, take care of yourself and Leave everything to us. And after that, Seol says to himself, I thought I would never see her again, but now I have hope. At least I will not let this hope go from me. No matter where you are, even in hell, I will follow you. Wait for me, ere I will find you, no matter what it costs me, and we will see him. After that, Seol took some of the sect with him and sailed in a ship in search of air, and it is Sayer is inside looking at their plan, and he says, Is it now that there will be only one city, which is Hunan? 3 years and 5 months have passed since I started looking for it, and it will be only one city. However, I did not find it anywhere in the Central Plains. During this time, I decreased from the transformation stage to the depth stage, and this is in its weight, and I lived through 2 complete transformations twice. Come on, we will definitely find it here because it is the only remaining area. Wait for me, I am coming to you. Then we will go back a little, but with the events in the past, when he was shocked when she told him that she wanted to go to talk to her father about these negotiations. He said to her, Why don't you have to go? Why do you want to do this? So she said to him, My father will come and attend these negotiations personally. If I attend, and he, who is my daughter, will definitely understand that your intentions are not bad, Appa. So he said to her, Sayer, no, this might be a trap. She tells him, Just listen to me this time. I want to trust my father, so please let me go. Here, Seol is silent for a while and says to her, Okay, fine, but if there is any danger or anything abnormal, please don't hesitate to come back immediately. She tells him, Of course. And she gets up and takes something out and hands it to him. He says to her, What is this? She tells him, This is a souvenir from my late mother. She told me that this necklace has the ability to return to the person who gave it to you. This necklace will always return to my Appa. This Appa, guys, is always spoiled like that. And she tells him, Don't worry, I will never leave you. At that time, I had to not agree to her doing this. We know that all Deet does is sleep and dream, and he wakes up like this and says, A storm is coming, and we see everyone calling out to each other, and he says to them, Hold on tight, guys. Tie yourselves with ropes so you don't get swept away by the storm and the waves. Then the torrents come out from inside, and he sees this and says, What is this? A sudden storm. At one moment he says, What is this? And we find a very large wave heading towards them. So he uses the torrents that carry the 1,000-pound rain protector who protects him from these waves, and who took with them some of the people who were already on the ship and who were calling for help, children and mothers in the water. So the torrents say, Damn this document, they will all die, and he uses telekinesis and throws wood into the water to help those in the water stay afloat, and he looks like this wood and says, Let's start with this, but while he is concentrating, one of the people with him says to him, This is coming again, and he sees this torrent, and I find that this wave is hundreds of times bigger than the one before it, and everyone is in fear and panic from the horror of the scene, and he says, The ship's tides. The ship won't be able to bear more than this. I have only one choice. He summons his sword, which is charged with the power of ice, and with his strongest strike towards this wave, and he takes advantage of the Adaba. Those with him say, How did the weather become so cold all at once? And he says, Soul, I must freeze these waves. He uses the ice wind technique, but while he is using it, he notices that the necklace is narrowing strangely, and what makes a very strong light strike in the sky gathers this huge wave around it. Because of the strength of this light, Soul was unable to see anything. Everything that happened was a shock to everyone standing there. He did not find himself until he opened his eyes inside Ma's carriage, and he says, How did I get here? I thought I was fighting a storm in the middle of the sea. And his head was hurting like this. It was easy. He was unconscious. He was shocked by a screaming sound from afar. He said, Where did this scream come from? He looked from the car he was in. There was a group of people being chased away by huge insects. There were also 2 girls. It was clear that they were fed up with them. They told them, The people with them are gone and we will move them. Don't worry. But it was clear that they had no power or strength. But he was shocked from behind them when they saw a light shining from the car that was parked in Beit Taddam. They said, A first-class car. What are you doing here? and he came out of the fog. Our hero, Sol, was standing there saying, it looks like the place we are in is a forest in the Central Plains. But wait, they look like foreigners. This means that we are very far from the Central Plains. How is it? And Bella was unlucky that the insects are still facing him. So he says flies and is very shocked by its size while it attacks, and Asna does not face these flies towards him. And he says, Sol, these are foreign flies and huge flies. What the hell is happening in the Central Plains? He dodges the fly's attacks and uses the white ice palm and freezes the fly completely and destroys it. Moa throws everyone present from the horror of the situation, and Sol says, how could a vile monster like that be dragged to attack a human just because he got a little bigger? This is completely unacceptable. He uses his power like this, angry, and attacks the rest of the flies and destroys them completely, and this in the blink of an eye using the white ice palm technique. He says, this is more than enough for a few small insects like these. Moa throws everyone standing there and says, it's impossible. How could this happen? So Sol is surprised by their words and looks at them in surprise because they seem to be speaking in a language he does not understand. One of them says to him in the language he speaks, I am Edmund Royal, leader of the Royal Merchant Association. Thank you very much for saving us, the Merchant Association. May I ask the name of your savior, sir, swordsman, or magician? He bows to him, but Seol doesn't understand what he's saying because he literally doesn't understand a word of their language. But he realizes that he's thanking with the gestures he's making. So Seol turns to him and says, I'm sorry, but I don't understand the foreign language you're speaking. They're all shocked by the way he speaks because they don't understand him either. Seol says, is there anyone here who can speak the language of the Central Plains? But almost no one understands him because they literally just sit there looking at each other, and Seol literally loads them. So he asks Seol, I'm asking you if anyone, who among you knows the Central Plains language? Is there anyone? There is also no one who can answer him, and he sits thinking about how he can explain this while they are talking to each other. Suddenly, the old man whose name is Edmund takes out a ring and gives it to Seol. Seol holds it and says, what does this ring do? Here, the old man Edmund begins to explain to him while activating the spell of this ring and says, translate the language. This ring translates any language and enables those wearing it to speak to each other. Seol is shocked and is actually able to understand this old man who asks him, do you understand me now? Seol turns to him and says, you suddenly find it shameful that you speak the Central Plains language in such a good way. Is this the power of the ring? He says, yes, that is true, but it is very good. This Central Plains language. Let me introduce myself to you now. Another time, I am Edmund Royal, leader of the Royal Merchant Association. Thank you for saving our Merchant Association. May I ask the name of our savior? Sir, the magic swordsman? Seol answers them and says, I don't know who this magic swordsman is. What is this word? He says, anyway, my name is Seol Madoku. The old man looks at him and says, what? You don't know who a magic swordsman is? A magic swordsman is someone who can use both a sword and magic, just like you. So I am surprised. Seol says, what is this magic? Here, Edmund is very upset and says, you don't know this magic? You just unleashed it a while ago. How do you not know it? So, Seol is surprised and says, where the hell do these people come from? He stands up and says, I'm sorry, but honestly, I don't know. He says to the old man, well, how can I even begin to explain this to him now? He stands up and mutters to them to answer. On Seol's question, he explains to him what magic means, but Seol of course has no patience at all and gets angry like this and directs his icy energy towards him and says to him, I asked you a question, now answer it. So old Edmund got very scared and said to himself, is he crazy or what? He is definitely crazy, but since he says that he doesn't know, then I have to explain to him, who knows what will happen if this madman starts to rage here, and says to him, I understand, I will explain to you, mister. Seol, please calm down. So he actually calms Seol down and says to him, so what do you mean now that there is something called magic in this part of the Central Plains? This world has really become spacious, or what? And here, of course, Edmund's mother, that he is finally here, and he asks him like this and says to him, by the way, what exactly are the Central Plains that you are talking about here? So here Seol is surprised and says to him, you don't know what the Central Plains are? How come you want to tell me that you don't know where you are now? Here Eamon is surprised and says to him, I didn't understand you, excuse me, I mean, what do you mean? So Seol says to him, I'm asking because it's frowning that you don't know what the Central Plains are. And you're in the Central Plains in the first place. Here literally old Eamon is sure that the boy in front of him is literally crazy, and he says to him, oh master, oh swordsman, oh magician, this area is not called the Central Plains. We're in a forest that leads to the capital of the kingdom of Dark Barha. Here Seol hears this talk and says, take look who's talking. A foreigner came to talk about the area that I know like my name. I've never heard that someone called the Central Plains by the name of Dark. Where did you get that talk from? It seems you've grown old to the point of actually going crazy. Here the old man says to himself, who he means who's going crazy? Is this man crazy or what? One day he laughed a laugh to amuse him and said to him, what is this nonsense, Uncle Hadge? I am only 50 years old so far, and I came to tell you that I am crazy because you still insist that this place is called the Middle Soul. Here he says to Seol, okay, if that is the case, then we can ask the child who is spying on us from behind the tree. Here the child is shocked because he was sure that he was well hidden and no one knows his location. So old Eamon says to the child Leo, what are you doing here? But Seol says to him, child, the place we are in now is a recommendation to the Middle Soul, or your home, as the foreigner says. Here the boy is shocked and does not understand anything. So Seol says to him with an angry look, why don't you answer him? So old Eamon says to him, no matter how much you talk to him, he will not understand you because you are not wearing a ring. Take this ring, put it on your fingers, and shout a word that translates the language, and he will understand your language. He is also just as I understood your language, and indeed he takes the torrent of this ring from him and says, despite lending me an expensive magic piece like this, I cannot accept to treat this man like a crazy old man. Frankly, I respect him after the actions he does with me, and he says the translation of the language, and indeed the language of these people begins to appear like this in front of the torrents in the air, and literally as if he is learning every word they have, or as if he had lived with them for a long time, and now he feels that he hears and understands everything that is spoken around him, and then he asks the boy in their language and says to him, boy, what is your name? The boy says to him, my name is Leo. He says to him, okay, Leo, let me now ask you a question. Are these plains the Central Plains, or is this area called Drake? The boy says, I am sorry, but what are the Central Plains? I have never heard of them before. This is a forest located on the road leading to Burin, the capital of the Dark Kingdom. He says to him, Soul, what are you saying? Are you also going crazy? He says to the old man, did you tell that child to say something, or what? Did you memorize his words, man? But the old man replies to him, no, by God, I didn't say anything. If you doubt me, ask everyone sitting here now. They will tell you the same thing. Soul says, from his reaction, he doesn't seem to be lying, so this really isn't the Central Plains. But wait a minute, while I'm thinking about this, I was fighting the storm before I came here, and I was on a ship. When I opened my eyes, I was inside a vehicle. Is it really possible that I have been transported across dimensions? He is shocked by what is happening. Here, after Soul was shocked and said that it is possible that I have been transported across dimensions, he says, so this is the Dark Kingdom, the Central Plains. Suddenly, he feels a pain in his heart and says, what is this? What is happening? This strange feeling that came to me all at once. After that, he says to the old man, what do you believe me now? He says, the energy is different from anything I have ever felt before, something that is not normal at all, and he starts moving and leaves the place. So he says to the old man, where are you going? He says, he says to himself, I need to make sure for myself, and indeed, after he wanders around the place for a while, he says to himself, this is really different, the energy is strangely pure, This place is definitely different from the Central Plains, and he stands up flying like this on the trees and using his ice power and soaring in the sky, and at once, a very high energy comes out of his heart that fills the entire sky, and he says, the amount of energy accumulated in my heart has weakened tremendously, but how did I end up here instead of the Central Plains? What is this place that I am in? I need to look for it as quickly as possible, but wait, and he stands in place like this and says, is it possible that what happened this is because of the light that came out of my necklace when the wave was directed towards us? She told me before that this necklace has the ability to return to the person who gave it to you, so it might actually be that I was sent here on purpose to look for her. I think that she might actually be here. In my world, there was only one city, but we didn't see it, so I don't think that we can find her there, and that she actually exists in this world. As for the place where they were sitting as they were waiting, and the one who said, Old Edmund, what happened a while ago? Where did the magical swordsman go? I don't understand at all what he's doing. No one is changing his actions. Anyway, he actually returned. While they were talking like this, everyone here said, I'm back. I just had some business that I had to take care of, so that's why I left you all at once and returned. I also came like this, and I have a question. Edmund said to him he comes and takes advantage of this for Seol, who suddenly smiles strangely. So Seol says to them, is what the little boy said true about this place being the kingdom of dark? Faber looks at him and Eamon says to him, yes, that's true. Seol says to him, proof of this? Where is this? Faber looks at the child like this, and laughs and says to him, you really don't know anything about this place. It seems you spent all your time in the mountains training, for example, on your current strength. He continues and says, I heard stories about strange people like you, but this is the first time I've seen them in my life. So, the egg scratches the seal and says to him, yes, that's true. I was actually training in the mountains, and I didn't go out until today to experience this world, so that's why I don't know anything. So he says to himself, proof of Dark's kingdom. I've never heard anything like this about these places. It seems like I can find out some more information about this place from the child in front of me. Well, since most of them have eyes in different colors, the shape of this land is the land of the Western barbarians that I heard about, but this is a very weak possibility. Anyway, the boy says to him, as expected, you want me to teach you things. Look, I will teach you some things, my master, my swordsman, my magic. So, Sul says to him, okay, I will be grateful for that. So, the boy says to him, okay, follow me. So, Sul says to him, yes, and he says to him, by the way, what is your name? So, the boy says to him, my name is Luffy. What is your name, my master, my swordsman, my magic? Here, the old man Eamon is surprised because he literally left them and all the adults and went to talk to some children and says, why is he acting in such a friendly way all of a sudden? This man is scary and literally crazy. Anyway, my master, on that same night, Sul learned some things about the place and the language that the people used from Luffy and knew that this place was not a foreign land, but rather a completely different world from his own world. The land was strange in shape and the writing was different from what in the Central Plains, and also in this world not only the Bashars are present, but there are also other types of life races such as Elves and AQZ, and there are also creatures similar to humans, which are the animals. Among all these types, the strongest creatures in this world are known as dragons, which are lizards with wings or something like that. But, sir, do you also know that there is something called transportation magic or instant transportation and the magic circle? Luffy explains to him and tells him that you can use transportation magic only when you are a magician of the 5th circle and above, because they are the only ones who can draw a magic circle on the ground and cast a spell on it, and from this, the person can move immediately to any place he wants, and the better the person's abilities, the more he can move to greater and further distances. Here, Sul is bleeding from the words he hears, and he says things like this that I am not able to explain yet, but literally, this boy Luffy is great, he knows how to explain from the end, and he says, he wondered to himself what other amazing things still exist in this world or could exist in it, and while he was lost in thought he noticed 3 moons in the sky with the beauty and magnificence he saw before his eyes and said, I must admit that this place is completely different from any place in the Central Plains, and now I am sure that there is a world different from my world. Were you really summoned here? And while he was standing there with himself we hear Charles's voice screaming and saying, Sphina, no, don't do this. So he quickly paid attention to them and said, what is that voice? Who is there? And we go and see Sphina, and she says, what do you mean? No, he didn't do this. Why don't you come 1 step closer to me or I will kill you all? And she is holding the little girl whose name is Ani, and she is holding a knife, and it is clear that she does not intend well. So one of the people there says to her, please Sphina, we don't do this. Here Seol is shocked and says to him, what is happening? So Charles says to her, let's get to the capital. They will definitely find a cure for you or something. There are a lot of magicians in the capital. I will ask Edmund for a service too. So stop what you are doing. I am afraid of you. Here Safina responds to them and says, Charles, do you think I am an idiot or what? Even in the capital, healers are very rare. And if we were even able to find one, do you know how much that would cost me? There is no hope for us. The killer insect has begun to be implanted in my heart, and it is possible for it to hatch into a lyric at any moment. How is it possible for anyone to treat it? And it is obvious that it is tired, O Wakani, and this is because of the egg that is already implanted in their hearts and that is affecting them. Here Charles is standing in his place, unable to do anything, and Safina completes and says, when the egg hatches, that lyric will be torn apart. I am and I, so it would be better for me to die before that. I came and I was still healthy. But suddenly, Seol intervenes and says to her, wait here, I have an idea roughly about the situation you are in. We find that there is magic gathered around his hand, and he says to her, I have an idea roughly about the situation you are in. One day, he uses his telepathy magic, and one day, he takes the dagger that was in her hand from her and says to her, I will bring you and this little girl, so this dagger will not be necessary for you. She says to him, how did you get here so quickly? He says to her, come here, just sit here quickly, let me show them now. Eamon is surprised and says to him, do you also know healing magic? Seol says to him, I do not know magic or the empty talk that you people of the new generation are talking about, but I have some healing techniques that have been criticized for me across the generations, and I am using it, so please can you calm down a little and let me see my work here. Emmond and Charles are very happy because they finally found someone, and Emmond goes and sits crying for a while and says to him, for God's sake, catch up with them. They have no one else catch up with them, and he doesn't know, and he sat crying for him for 5 hours like this, now 6 hours, that the one who saved the floods doesn't know what's wrong, and he says to him, by God Almighty, I was going to do this without you even asking me to get away from me. Crazy man you are, I will start treating these two now, so please get away from me a little. So here Emmond says to him, okay, and tells everyone to go back a little, and he actually goes to the floods and says to the girls, there is no need for you to be nervous, it won't take long for me, and he tells them to close their eyes like this and calm down so he can see his work, and he stands up and sits behind them and uses magic. They are really unlucky that the killer insect's eggs are close to their hearts, and events pass, and we see him later on continuing their move to the capital, and Ayman says, why is the weather so hot today? And also says, Torrance, I am literally drowning in my sweat here. Anyway, the little boy whose name is Leo comes and says, oh, master of the magic sword, take some water to clear your throat. I feel that you are tired. So Torrance says to him, thank you, and says, I noticed that this water is very normal. So he says, I can throw on it just a little ice to make it cold. So I noticed the little boy like this what Torrance did, and says to him, what is this? Are you okay, master of the magic sword? So he says to him, yes, now what I did is better than before, and he puts the bottle of water on the little boy's cheek. So the boy is shocked and says to him, your bottle of water is strange somehow. So he says to him, Torrance is cold, take it. And the boy is very shocked and says to him, why is it so cold? So Seol says to him, uncle, try it. And you are silent. So the boy actually tries it, and unluckily it is ice and crispy and very sweet, which he likes very much. But suddenly the events transfer us to a little in the past when Seol was actually treating the two girls, and luckily he was saying that the eggs did not hatch, because if they had hatched, their lives would have been completely easy, and now he controlled his energy very well and burned the eggs of these insects without harming their hearts, and after he actually finished and saved them, they felt a very nice coldness coming out of their bodies, and their bodies were revived with very amazing energy. And Seol says, I am done now. So Moa holds the two girls, and they say, really? So he says to them, yes, I have actually destroyed all the eggs of the insects that were present, so you can rest now, so Moa holds everyone present and asks Eamon Dr. Seal, and he says to him, are Savina and I okay now? The boy says to Leo, is everything really over from now on, Master of the Magic Sword? He says to him, yes, now I am really done and there will be no side effects from this, so there is no need to worry. The two girls are very happy and thank Seal and say to him, thank you, Master of the Magic Sword. Savina says to Seal, the thanks and appreciation are over, my master. We are very grateful to you. They all show me respect and thanks and tell him that they will never forget his favor. Then Seal relaxes a little and says that this day was really long and he was very tired. He holds his necklace and speaks and says, I missed you today more than ever, my love. I hope that we meet each other very soon. Then we go back to the events we were in after the boy had a little fun with this cold, freezing water. The simplest torrents are very simple and he says to him, what's refreshing? Isn't that so? The boy, literally, from the freezing cold he felt, was not able to hide his joy. He gave him another bottle of water to freeze for him and take it with him. After he froze for him, he did not know that he would gather the rest of the people around him. They all brought him their water and told him to cool it for them as well and take it with him. Everyone became happy and pleased with this cold water. So Torrance said to himself, the matter is not difficult or anything, but he also has a slight headache and I like to relax my head. Anyway, my lord, Emmond comes, who was almost frozen in a place and says, why are you making a fuss? So the little boy says to Mr. Emmond, the magic swordsman, bring us some ice-cold water. Everyone here saw him do the same, so they asked him to freeze the water for them as well. Here, Emmond is very shocked that he says, oh, ice water. Here, there is a house like this towards Sol, and he says to him, oh, master, oh, swordsman, oh, magic venerable. Here, Sol is shocked and says to him, why is he looking at me like that? So he gets down on his feet and asks him to bring him this ice water. So Sol is repelled and says, what is this face? What do you want, boy? Okay, bring your water. So he actually gives it to him and gathers and thanks Eamon very much and says that there is something strange here and asks Sol, how did you make this ice? So he says to him, I made the technology that we can use. What is the strange thing? So he says to him, this is literally something very cool and there is nothing like it. I have tried all kinds of ice that exist on the continent, but I have never seen anything like this ice before. Its level is very high. Simply put, it literally cannot be used with anything that exists. Very cool, Seal. The Seal is very cool. He says, ice. They literally say that this ice tastes good. I didn't do anything except freeze their water. Are these people Marawish or what? So Eamon explained to him and said, when you make ice, it is common for you to use the coldness attribute on the air, and this is to freeze the water directly. When you use the coldness attribute, meaning from the air, then the air in this place or the atmosphere specifically, its impurities from mana are mixed with this ice, which affects its taste. However, given that every mage has a special fingerprint or a unique mana fingerprint, it is rare that you find someone who can make pure ice. Therefore, it is not easy for us to obtain pure ice like what you made. However, your ice was incredibly pure, and for this reason, its taste was very cool. Here, Seal understands what they mean and says, ah, now the matter makes some sense. And he says to himself, thinking that something simple like the snow could lead to such reactions and make them happy, I literally can barely pity them, but come on, since I am in a good mood, now let's do a little more for them. But he gives someone and says to him, oh, master of the magic swords. So he says to him, what's up? Eamon says to him, I have a suggestion for you. What is Eamon's suggestion to Seal, and what will happen next, and what will happen next in this legendary story, and will Seal really be able to find his beloved Hua? All of this and more we will know in the upcoming episodes of Seal's story. See you in the next clips, God willing, in God's care and protection.
Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.